T&E Magazine presents Exum Music with your host, Lawon Exum. Produced by the Music Messenger Productions. Our show features artists, musicians, composers, producers, audio engineers, educators, and everything music. We cover in-depth interviews with a fresh perspective from up-and-coming to established minorities in the industry. Please visit tnemagazine.com to subscribe. Enter promo code EXUMMUSIC to receive 30% off your subscription. Enjoy the show.
You are listening to Exum Music with your host, Lawon Exum. Today, our guest was Tanisha Fordham, educator, writer, and director of the project My Nephew Emmett.
Hi, my name is Tanisha Fordham, writer, director, and content creator originally from Buffalo, New York. I'm here this afternoon talking about My Nephew Emmett, our Oscar-nominated short. I'm so thankful to T&E Magazine for bringing me out, and I hope that you continue to check out T&E Magazine for all of their new content and updates. Thanks, y'all.
We are here live with the lovely Tanisha Fordham. Can you please tell us what you are doing here today?
Absolutely. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for having me here. So I co-produced a film entitled My Nephew Emmett, and we got an Oscar nomination. So, tomorrow is the Oscars.
Yes.
And we are on our way with a prayer that maybe we'll pull it off.
Can you tell us about the project?
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. So My Nephew Emmett is the story of Emmett Till, told from the uncle's perspective. The director, writer, and lead producer, Kevin Wilson Jr., is just genius, truly. And I'm not just saying it because it's like a project that I'm a part of. And
Right.
It's a project that he's been working on for years. I went to college with him, and he's been telling the story in different forms since college. So he started it out as a play, and it was more told in like the traditional way of like, these are the facts of the story. Right. But this time, I think he really wanted to be creative in navigating the story because it's a very popular, popular is not the word, but notorious story.
Exactly.
This young 14-year-old boy comes down to Money, Mississippi from Chicago. He's only 14. He's born and raised in Chicago, doesn't know anything about the Bible Belt South, and is accused of whistling at this woman at a corner store. And then they mutilated his body. The husband and friend of the person, of the wife, mutilated his body, drug him down a street, and then threw him into the Tallahatchie River. So the film, again, is, like I said, told from the uncle's perspective and is like kind of agonizing. It was agonizing to have made, right, and it's agonizing to watch because you're watching it from the perspective of this man who can do nothing about it, but it's his nephew, and there's
Right.
like literally nothing that he can do.
Right.
So.
What made you get involved in the project?
Well, like I said, Kevin is a very, very dear friend. He's currently his youngest son, but he's about to have another daughter. But his youngest son right now, Noah, is my godson. But we've been doing projects together for a very long time. I produced something like one of the first short films that he did, which was entitled Red. And so when he asked me to do the project, it was no questions. Right. When we location scouted, something that's very interesting, we did location scouting for it in November of 2016.
Wow. And
we went to Money, Mississippi, because he was determined to shoot the film where it actually happened. Right. We shot about a mile from where Emmett's body was actually pulled from the water. Wow. And when we went to location scout, we're going all around the city, and we actually go to the place where the marker is, where his body was pulled from the water. Wow. When we got to the marker had been riveted with all of these bullets. Somebody had driven by this marker in Mississippi and shot up the sign that was like marking this is where Emmett's body was pulled. Well, Kevin is this like militant, like I gotta get like, he's gotta find the answer. He has to have something to like justify or identify why is this still happening. So he goes around and talks to all of like the local officials. Come to find out, this sign had been sprayed with bullets like 4 times over the past 2-3 years. And the city would replace the sign, and then they would spray it up with bullets again.
Wow.
So it just shows like, and this was in 2016.
Right.
It just shows that the hatred that probably was the reason why Emmett was killed in 1955
exactly.
is very likely still alive and well in Mississippi, which is so sad, sad and disheartening. So.
What would you say, what advice would you give someone who want to do a project like this? Because, I mean, this is kind of like I know history, so for me, just knowing about this is very heart-wrenching, just hearing what you went through, even scouting for the location.
Yeah.
What would you tell like a director or someone who want to produce a documentary or a film like this?
Well, my first advice just to anybody who wants to do the thing is to just do whatever it is that you want to do, just do it. There's a lot of like planning, and there's a lot of agonizing, and in my case, I'm a Jesus girl, so there's a lot of praying that goes into making projects, but I think ultimately you just have to do what it is that you said you're gonna do. I think especially since having had the opportunity to like have platforms like this recently, there have been a lot of people who will message me on Instagram or Facebook, and they'll say, I wanna write most recently, actually yesterday, a young man messaged me on Facebook, and he said, I wanna write a film and direct it for Sundance. What he doesn't know is like, that's what I wanna do next. I wanna write and direct a film for Sundance. And so his dream, while in his mind, it may seem so big and like outrageous, it's like, baby doll, we got the same dream.
Exactly.
Like getting an Oscar nomination doesn't suddenly like, oh, okay, now the world has just opened up to me. No, I still have to just write the film, direct it, like do the same things that everyone else has to do in order to make those things a reality. So I think, Nate Parker, I heard him one time when I was at a panel, and he was just talking about like, a script that is written, no matter how horrible the script is, it could be the worst script in the world, is 1 billion times more valuable than a William Shakespeare play that never made it out of his brain. And when he said that, I was like, that is so true. All of this talking about what we're going to just do the thing, just do it. And by doing it, you exponentially change the amount of value that you have, because there are so few people who actually do anything. So that's what I would say. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
It really
just do it. Sorry.
No. What really comes to my mind is something my grandmother always taught me. Because you said, just do it. The richest place in the world is the grave, because so many dreams have been buried that people never done.
It's so true.
So when you
really
said
true.
that made me think about my grandmother when you was like talking about that.
It's really true.
I believe that's do it. So can you tell me about the development of the music for the film that you're doing?
Absolutely. We had an amazing composer. Kevin, like I told you, is currently a student at NYU.
Okay.
And so he's got a lot of access to people who are in the industry or surrounding the industry, at least in the greater New York area, New York City. And so he just put out a call to get people who were interested in kind of that same kind of ambient sound. Because if you watch the film is quiet. All you can hear is like the grasshoppers in Mississippi and the car rolling very like quietly up that gravel path. And he was very intentional about that. He wanted it to feel like you are in sweaty, sticky Mississippi on a night, and that there's no one for miles that could have helped this little boy. Because a lot of people are like, well, why didn't someone do this? Or why didn't someone do that? But the thing is, I don't understand, like, Money, Mississippi is small. Maybe 1,000 people in the entire city. There were miles between, like, that house and then the next house. So there was no one to help. They came with guns. There was no one to help. And so we were very intentional about wanting someone who could do sound that wouldn't compromise the actual sound of the film. So the actual, what they had recorded on set. Okay. So that's how we did the music. Also, we used stuff that was, and maybe you all might know more about this than me, but we used stuff that was so old that like the license was open to the public.
Okay.
So that was really the main thing that we did for the music for the film.
Now you touched on being at other events in LA. Name another one that you encountered.
Oh yeah, so film festival that I recently worked was the Pan-African Film Festival. Pan-African Film and Arts Festival, I should say. It's the second largest Black film festival in the world, and it's just these amazing people. Babu and Asantwa, they're the two co-founders, and it's just a family. It's the craziest thing because the event is humongous. They run a lot of the films that go to Cannes and Sundance, but it's just this family that has so much heart. And so many people come through the festival because they've known Babu and Asantwa since they started the festival 27 years ago. Right. So, we've had Danny Glover is a regular, Isaiah Washington, Denzel Washington comes a lot. Nate Parker has come like 3 of the 4 years. So there's just all these people who come through because they sense that community. But most recently, Chadwick Boseman actually came this past festival, and it was crazy because we did a premiere. And he was not at the premiere. Nobody from the cast was at the premiere. The next day, he came to Rave Cinemas, Baldwin Hills, and legitimately went in the back, came around the back way, every theater that was currently playing Black Panther. He just came into the theater. And it was crazy to listen, because you didn't even have to be in the house. You could be outside in the hallway and listen to people losing it.
Right.
People were losing their minds. It was crazy. And he was so laid back.
Yeah, I hear that.
No fanfare. He didn't have an entourage. He was by himself. He hopped out of that car, walked from theater to theater, and then went back. So it's just like, I really appreciate seeing people who are just so genius and do such good work, but are still so low down to the ground.
Right.
So it was really cool.
Okay. What were some of the people that inspired you along the way getting in this industry?
Well, like I just said, and I have to say it one more time because it's really, really true to me. I am a Jesus girl. I am not the person, Kevin Wilson, who I just want to keep saying his name because it really was his vision. And I was so blessed, and I'm very thankful to have been a part of the project, but it was his project. And I want to be very clear on that.
Yeah.
But Kevin is so this like film guy. He's an NYU student.
Okay.
Spike Lee is one of his mentors. He's like this film guy. He can tell you all of the technical elements of every film that's ever been. Like, he's a film guy. He knows the top 100 films of all times, like according to some list that's been concocted.
Right.
If you were to ask him right now in an interview, he could tell you from 1 to 100 in order. He's a film guy.
Right.
But that's not really who I am. Okay. I'm like a people person. And my vision has always been to write, act, and direct for billions of people around the world, spreading the light and love of Jesus Christ. When I was getting my master's degree, our teacher made us write out our vision statement, and that was my vision statement. So for me, though, something that dawned on me like maybe 3-4 years ago, that doesn't mean I'll ever get the chance to do it in front of a billion at a time.
Right.
I mean, maybe I will. Who knows? By the grace of God, anything is possible. We're going to the Oscars tomorrow, so maybe so.
Exactly.
But I think for me, my inspiration is like, I teach full-time. I teach theater and film. Okay. The school is called Newark Collegiate Academy. It's in Newark, New Jersey.
Okay.
Those babies are my inspiration. It's not like Oprah, though, like who doesn't love Oprah? Or Ava DuVernay, who doesn't love Ava DuVernay? Or Lauryn Hill, or like all of these women who are out here like changing the world in the masses, or like in front of the masses.
Right.
But like the people who inspire me are like the baby girls that I teach every day, who don't realize that like the world is bigger than Newark. Yeah. And I recognize that by me going to the Oscars, they realize like Miss T, because that's what they call me, Miss T teaches in front of us every single day. And so if she can get an Oscar, I can get an Oscar.
Yeah.
And I say to them, you don't even have to look at me. Michael B. Jordan is from Newark. Whitney Houston was from Newark. So like for me, my inspiration, while it's big and I see a lot of people who did really well, it's much smaller than that. My inspiration is just hope that the world around me, the little community, the 7 blocks that I live in every day will be better because I was here. Just like there were people, like none of the people who inspired me, like while I keep telling you, I did look at TV just like everyone else, or movies or whatever else. But the people who had the biggest impact in my life are like Mama Crystal, who was like the after school program coordinator. Like Mama Crystal made sure that we had chicken and whatever else when we were hungry after school. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or my AXO coach. I was in a national competition and was doing speaking, oratory, and original writing. And like I think of the doctor who sat down with me and made sure every day, a PhD doctor, PhD doctor, not MD. Right. The doctor who sat down with me and like made sure that my writing was grammatically correct. That had a much bigger impact on my life than watching Oprah and get her daytime Emmys. Right. So I think like those kids, and the fact that like they're looking up to us in the communities, the fact that we have the capacity to shift the community around us, that's what has really served as an inspiration to me.
You inspire me just talking about it. No, seriously, like I'm just engrossed in your voice. No, seriously.
Thank you.
And just my parents are educators, and
so you know.
So I know.
You know.
And I like when you said you're a Jesus girl.
I
kept trying to hear. I was like, "What is you're a Jesus girl?" I like that. So I mean, they need to hear that because it's not just cameras, lights, red carpet. Look how you got here. It was hard work.
Yeah.
And for you to tell somebody what you just said, I appreciate it.
Thank
I'm
you.
pretty sure they do.
Thank you.
So where can we find any projects that you're going to do in the future?
So I started a company in 2007, so it's been 11 years now, which is crazy. When I was a junior in college, and the title of not the title, but the name of the company is Enlightened Visions.
Okay.
And I've been doing probably about 3 to 4 original projects every year through that company,
Okay.
but over a variety of mediums. So I just came out with a book. The book is entitled Go Black Boy Fly.
Okay, yeah.
Really excited about the book.
Okay.
It's been doing really, really well. We just got accepted into the Harlem Book Fair, the Atlanta Black Book Fair, the Toronto Book Fair. So we just got accepted to a lot of book fairs, which is exciting for a book. You need to get into book fairs. So that book is doing really well. That's a project that you could look up that would be very easy to find. It's on Amazon and on Barnes & Nobles. But like I said, Enlightened Visions would be the best way. It's just enlightenedvisions.org. That would be the best way to find the projects that I have most recently done, because we always release them on the website.
Okay, please tell me, how'd you get your name for Enlightened Vision?
Countering negative media and theater arts with positive media and theater arts. Enlightened Vision, you know?
I love that. No, I'm serious. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated.
Thank you.
And about the book, can you please tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually really glad that you asked me about the book. So I had a student in 2014. His name was Nathaniel Boone, and I really like to speak his name, especially now because he's no longer with us. In 2014, he was this valedictorian of his class. He was an all-star track runner. He was slated to go to all of these schools on a full ride. Just this genius little black boy who just legit could do anything. You know, we always say that to everybody. Oh, you could do anything. But no, he legitimately could have done anything. He was a junior and already had scholarships offering him to go to college.
Yeah.
And the summer after his junior year, his mother and him were just, they were just out and about wherever they were, just a regular afternoon, and he fell to the ground. His mom, of course, panicked. He couldn't get himself back up. He had lost feeling, at least momentarily, to his legs and the rest of his body, so they rushed him to the hospital to find out that he had a disease called transverse myelitis. The disease is an autoimmune disease that paralyzed him from the chest down. But we all had so much hope because the life expectancy of the disease is 30 years. Okay. So we were thinking this is horrible. He can't run track, but there's nothing wrong with his mind. Exactly. And his mind was the part of him that was just right. I'm telling you, you could have sat and listened to this little boy talk. Wow. and talk. He was brilliant. And so we all thought he was going to be okay. He had struggled with some depression and some other stuff because, of course, he went from being this track runner but we all had a lot of hope for him. Well, 2 weeks ago, his mom called me. I was working a film festival in LA at the time. Staying at your house. Sorry, I just want to say that. Okay.
It's okay.
And in the middle of hosting an event, I kept getting calls and calls and calls from his mother and sister. They were just calling me over and over and over. Okay. Finally, I stepped out and picked up the phone, and his sister was just sobbing. So they didn't even have to say anything. I knew what had happened. He ended up passing. And, without getting overwhelmed and emotional, I had texted him an hour before, and we talked 3-4 times a week, so it wasn't anything. I just texted him right. Hey, baby boy, love you, thinking about you, whatever. Right. His mom said he had a stomach ache. She gave him medicine. He went to sleep, and he never woke back up. So when all of this was happening, obviously before he had passed, I wrote a book because I wanted to he was such an inspiration to me. Right. And a lot of people were like, well, that's a tall order. You're going to write a book for a student of yours. But it was yeah, I'm going to write a book because he deserves a book. And and his story, though it's tragic, we could make it into something beautiful. Yes. We could make it into something hopeful. Yes. And so I wrote this book, and I thank the Lord. Now, even though the book is out, I'm very keenly aware that it was probably more for him than for anybody else. Mm-hmm. Because it would prove to be one of the last things that he had an opportunity to see. You matter to a lot of people, baby. Yeah. You matter. And so I wrote that book. Like I said, I released it last year in June. We were done. I released it in January. We did a play. The students at my school did the play version of it. And that play is also going to all of these book fairs that we're going to.
That's amazing.
The play is going. But that was the reason why I wrote it. Just the main character's name is Nate. Okay. For Nathaniel Boone, my student. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I wrote it, to try and help and inspire him and motivate other little black boys that they can do anything.
Black boy magic.
Black boy magic.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Can you please name the book again, please?
Yeah, Go Black Boy Fly.
Wow.
On Amazon and Barnes & Nobles.
Yeah.
And send up some prayers for his family.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you imagine? Like, I talk to his mother often, and
Good.
But it's just, there's nothing
There's nothing
that you can say, and there's nothing that can be done. But I think I think when we're all collectively like wishing well for people, it'll make a difference.
It'll make a difference. We'll be praying for his family. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank
I mean, you have inspired me.
Thank you.
I mean, just everything that you're doing. I mean, you are a light.
Thank you.
For people. I mean, you brightened up my afternoon just by coming here.
I don't know, this space is pretty bright with or without me, but thanks.
No.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I always have to, in every interview, whether it comes around to it or not, I always have to shout out my husband, Robert Alston, who has been holding it down. I just want to say real quick, a year ago, this is just for anybody who's like, dang, this ain't working out for me. Yeah. Like, life it's not doing what I need. A year ago, we lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and I was struggling with anxiety so bad that I couldn't like get out of the bed in the morning. I literally was driving one day with Rob. I had a panic attack in the car. I had never had one before in my life. I don't have like a history of anxiety, depression, none of that. Hit me like, wow, a panic attack in the car. And from that point to like, it literally took probably about 9 to 10 months where I'm not playing with you, I could not get out of the bed. I couldn't get out of the bed. My husband was forcing me to like, baby, you have to eat something. So like, let's take 3 bites of this because this can't be how the story ends.
Right.
And so that was a year ago. And my husband, to like move me out of that rut, literally left his job, and we moved to Jersey so that I could be closer to family and friends, like sandwiched in between all the people that we love.
That you love, right.
And he did it without question. He worked for one of the biggest tech companies in the world. He didn't ask a question about it. My mom, Pam Fordham, let me stay in her house, the house that my grandparents, Monroe and Freddie Mae Fordham, helped her to get when I was just a child. She let me move back home with my husband, no questions asked, so that I could stay afloat. Yeah. And so I say that not only as an ode to them for loving me like that, but as a reminder that like you never know. I couldn't have known. How could I have known a year ago that in a year you'll be going to the Oscars?
I was just gonna say.
Like, hold on. In a year, you'll be at the Oscars. We already won the Student Academy Award. There was a student version of we already won that award. So it's like you have to hold on. I know sometimes it feels like this isn't working. I'm about to break. But we got to learn to be like these palm trees out in LA. Palm trees that bend and don't break. So the only tree, it's not an oak tree, it's palm trees. They bend, they don't break. And no matter how bent over you are, you will snap back if you just hang on. You will snap back if you just hang on. So that's the last thing I wanted to say.
You almost got me crying.
Oh, sorry.
That's good.
I'm sorry, serious.
I don't even know what to say.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. I want to thank Tanisha Fordham for coming on our show today. And don't forget, subscribers, to use the promo code EXUM Music to get 30% off your subscription. Exum out.